Good morning guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to another episode of Rift Amps. Beautiful, gorgeous weather out there. It's 30 degrees Celsius, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but humidity in the 70s. It's gorgeous. Proper June, July weather. Anyway, mystery amp news. Both of the amps are faulty. We'll start with the Tweed Champ in its tuxedo jacket. This one, no output at all, completely silent. Switches on, but no output, so it actually fits on the shelf. How cool is that? But we'll start with the Vibro Champ. This one is low output, really, really quiet, which is unusual for these because there's not really much to go wrong. So I've got it on the test bench, all fired up. You'll know that the speaker socket on these is an RCA. So what I've got is an RCA plug just to a cliff jack, and then I can connect my normal setup to that. So that's how I connect these up. And we've got it on the test bench. It's up and running. It's nice and stable. I'm injecting a signal into the front end, into 4 ohms. That's our maximum signal there. That's with the control on 10 into input number 1. Our standard sine wave, we're getting 1.08 volts, which puts us about 0.3 watts. So we're down at less than 10% of rated power for these. So something's really not happy, right? So how do we diagnose an amplifier with low output? Signal tracing method, of course. So let's, with the oscilloscope, trace it through and find out the point where our signal drops off. But before I'm doing that, I'm just going to take some voltage measurements across all the pins just to make sure that there's nothing immediately obvious that stands out. Voltages taken. Not entirely happy with all of them, but then again, this amp's never been touched or serviced, so lots of worn out components and bits and pieces in there. Signal trace through the amplifier. Everything okay up until the output valve, but what's coming out of the output valve was extremely low output. So this was the valve that was in there, the Phillips 6V6. You can see, there you go, 6V6. So I've just subbed in a modern replacement, and we're now getting 3.76 volts output into 4 ohms, which puts us somewhere between 3.5 and 4 watts output. Okay, we're getting somewhere. However, can you see, if I turn the treble control up, we've got a parasitic oscillation there. Oh dear, this amplifier is not happy. So before we end up blowing a transformer and this thing cooking itself to death, I'm going to recommend that we do the electrolytics on the board at least. We add screen and grid stoppers to the output valve, and then test and measure again, see where we are. I need to check the bias on the output valve as well, because that 470 ohm resistor is looking a little bit toasty. So we'll check that as well and then see how we improve. But the other thing I need to do on this is a 3-prong conversion, get rid of the death cap. But let's get this thing running properly first and take it from there. VibroChamp update. Okay, so I've done the absolute bare minimum on this. I've only done what it needed. So the 4 electrolytics on the board, along with the bias resistor for the output valve. And I've added a screen stopper and a grid stopper on the output valve and just reconfigured that. That's all I've done. We've now got a beautiful output sine wave. Absolutely beautiful. It starts clipping at the bottom there. Oscillation has gone. This is good. to show you the tremolo. There it is. So, not much to do on this, to be honest. We'll just leave it soak testing for a bit. I'll come back, I'll retake all of my measurements. The filter can still test good, all 3 of the sections that are used. And yeah, so I'll just let this soak test and I'll go back and do all my tests and measurements, make sure I'm happy with it. Still need to do the 3-prong conversion, but that's no issue whatsoever. So all it needed was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 small components and a new 6v6 output valve. So apart from that, yeah, we just service it, usual stuff. But that's great news. What a great sine wave. Very, very happy with that. And I think whoever buys this amplifier will be very happy with it too. Bad news on the card Mercury. The retensioning of the pins in the preamp valve sockets has not fixed the issue. They are just too far gone, too worn out. So it's going to be the next job has got to be replacing the sockets. Now it's V1 and V3 that need swapping out, but if I'm doing those 2, I'm going to do V2 as well. These black sockets, I don't know who makes them, but they're sold in the budget section of the supplier's website. So I'm not confident that doing a like-for-like replacement is the best option. And so I'm going to put Beltons in. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to replace these 3 with Beltons, and hopefully that sorts that issue out. And once it is, I can finally get on with diagnosing the issue with the power reduction switch up here. So we've got to sort that out as well. But waiting on some sockets. Okay, the black Tolex Tweed Champ. I'm not sure if I told you, can't remember, but the issue with this one is that there's no output whatsoever. So let's give this thing another visual inspection, see if we can see anything obvious, which I cannot. Let's flip it over. And we've got a 125P1A, which is correct, 20th week of 1964. So that is, well, it's the original bell cover. I'm still not convinced that that's the original transformer. I need to look at some pictures. Maybe it is. Anyway, and the output transformer is a 125 A3A, 6th week of 1964. Okay, nice long wires on this. Okay, so from that initial inspection, I cannot see anything immediately wrong with this, but with no output, we'll just check the fuse hasn't popped. Probably the original fuse, that. Let's pop it on the bench, fire it up without the valves in first of all. There you go. And then we can see what we end up with. I went through the process, fired it up, did some voltage checks, all seemed to be okay, and it's got a signal running into it, and that's our output sine wave. And most I can get, we'll call it there, 4 volts into 4 ohms is 4 watts. So why are they saying there's no output on this? Well, if the chassis is passing audio, then that leaves us with the speaker. So do we need to test this speaker to see if this is working and this is actually passing audio? If it's not, then we know where we're going. But when this amp came to me, the speaker was disconnected. It can't be as simple as a disconnected speaker, can it? Can it? Let's go through all of the idiot checks anyway. But this chassis is passing audio fine. Look, Looks all right to me. I can actually hear the output transformer singing. So let's test the speaker, see what we've got. Okay, I've got a bit of a jerry rig set up here because of the length of the speaker cable in the cabinet and the RCA connection. So I've just jerry rigged something quickly up just for testing. Got a loop going into the amplifier. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. So the only thing I found was that the speaker was disconnected. So have they sent this out to me by mistake? I'm going to get back on the phone to them, just ask the question in case I'm being an idiot. But at the moment, it's working fine. It's working great. It's still going to get a 3-prong conversion, of course, and remove the death cap. But at the moment, no fault found. Right, so the story on the VibroChamp, sorry, it's not the VibroChamp, the Tweed Champ, is that they tried it twice and there was no output. The lights were on, but nobody was home. Well, it's working now, so I'm going to keep going with it, checking things out. But one thing we do need to deal with is the asbestos strips on the upper rear panel for the cabinet, and I'm not going to touch it, but it's already starting to flake and the fibres are starting to come away. So now I'm not allowed to remove this or dispose of it. Asbestos laws here in the UK. The only thing I can do, and this is what I always do, is I will just put some aluminium shielding to completely cover it all and just to protect it all. That's the only thing really. So that's what I'm going to do now. I've had approval from the customer to do that. So we'll cut out some shielded tape. It's just wide enough, just to cover it, but I might do an overlap, and then you've got a nice layer of protection. But yeah, asbestos in a guitar amplifier. Done. Simple as that. So that's going to stop any asbestos fibres or dust particles, whatever they're called, from escaping, and that's still going to work as a Faraday cage. So yeah, that's the only thing I can do really. But nice solution to that problem. The chassis still is absolutely fine. No issues with it. I'm just cooling it down now, so we'll give it a complete heat cycle, fire it up again from cold, see if maybe there's an issue. But I suspect it's the only thing it could be itself is this socket here, the speaker socket, because obviously I was connected on the back, but maybe there's an issue on the front here. So we'll just give it a clean and a check out. But yeah, that's champing. PR18-50 build. The board is in, along with the pots, and I've wired all those in, got my bus bar in. Because this has got a different control layout, so it's volume, treble, middle, bass, and then 2 knob reverb, so you've got a dwell and a mix control. The dwell and the mix wires have got long wire runs along the top here to their associated controls, so you've got to be really careful about wire placement and things like that, because stray coupling is a thing that exists, and it can be very, very tricky to get all of your wires exactly where you want them to be, and especially your reverb wires relative to your tone stack wire. So what I've done is I've got my tricolours here, and then I run the mid one around the back of the pots up here. So that's how that's looking, and I've started wiring in this side, but we're coming on quite nicely with this. So yeah, very happy. Cabinets here, speakers here. Just need to get this one finished up and we are done. The Tweed Champ, the 5F1 Tweed Champ, it is a 1964. Now, I made a mistake saying that only in 64 did they do them covered in black Tolex. Somebody very kindly sent me a link. There are a couple of examples of 63 models which were also done in black Tolex. So just clear that up, make sure we're as accurate as can be. That's very good. I also made a mistake and said the Vibro Champ was a 64. It's not a 67. So thank you for somebody who pointed that one out to me. I was going to say, actually, this is the original transformer for the amplifier. So ignore everything I said previous to that. Right, back on the limited run of Tweed Deluxe 5E3s that I'm doing, with a choice of either the Celestian Blue or the limited edition Silver Alnico that they're doing. So as I mentioned before, we've got some measurements and things and clearances we need to check, which is what I'm doing now. So with the chassis mounted in the cabinet, as you see, I use this blank chassis. Because I use a blank chassis and it's not screen printed, obviously I've got a face plate as well. So I've got a dummy one there just so I get my chassis height correct. And I've mounted that, and I've got the chassis in the correct front to back position relative to where the back panel will sit. So it will sit flush. So that's exactly where I want it. So now I can offer up my valves and work out where these are going to go. So a couple of things we need to know is that not all 6v6s are the same. So here are two of the common types. We've got the TAD STR on the right and the JJ on the left. And as you can see, the JJ is clearly taller than the TAD. So I have to make sure I clearance for the largest 6v6 that we're going to use, and the TAD one is the the JJ is the tallest one on the market. So that's the one we're going to use. And sorry. So if I offer it up to where it touches the speaker, is there, and I want to be at least quarter to half an inch over. So it's going to roughly sit there if I want to make sure I've got clearance for the valve and the speaker. So we're going to call that there. I'm just going to mark it and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's the mark done there. Now, the rule of spacing for output valves is there has to be, when you've got multiples obviously, like we've got here, the centre to centre spacing between them has to be at least 1.7 times the envelope diameter. So if we measure the envelope diameter of this 6v6, we get, can you see that on screen, 32, just under 32 mil. So 32 mil times 1.7 is around 54.5 millimeters. So that's where our spacing needs to be. So if our center line for this one is here, 54 mil over is where this one's going to be. So I'm just going to mark that one on now. So that's now done. So I've got the two 6v6s and the rectifier socket, each 54 millimeters apart. And there should just be enough room to squeeze in the IEC socket at the end there. Have I got one to hand? Like so. Maybe just, we'll have to work out the clearances, but it will fit. It'll be fine. And then with just the preamp valves, we do the same. Find out the point where, I mean, actually this one isn't going to touch the speaker at all. If I come down low enough, it'll actually clear completely above it. But we'll position the two that we need roughly relative to where they are on the board. Sorry, where the wires are and the components are on the board. So that's easy enough. But now I've checked my clearance. This is the most important one here. then I can make all my other measurements and holes and bits and pieces based on those 3 mounting points there. So that's how you do it. We're not just assembling an amplifier here, we're actually building it, and it's a big difference. You've got to make sure you're checking all these things, because you can't just chuck things together hoping it will work. You've always got to check your measurements. Just a quick update on the repair shelf. The top hat, the new transformer for it has been wound and is winging its way to me, so we'll be able to install that next week. Good news on that. The output transformer for the old Princeton reverb is being rewound as well, so when that's done I'll be able to get this one finished and out the door. Well, that's it then, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. Please give this video a thumbs up. All your comments down below for Q&A on Wednesdays. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's still only around 1/3 of you who watch these videos that are actually subscribed. So it'd really help the channel if you could hit that button and give us a bit of a boost. If you're feeling really, really generous, why not join the channels like these guys have? And again, that's supporting us loads. Now, if I do actually have one of the limited run Tweed Deluxes left, as in available. So I've sold 4, I've got 1 left. So if any of you are interested, please go on the website. You can find it on the limited run section of the order page. And if you want to go ahead and grab that, you can do so that way. And I will build for you a very, very nice amplifier. That leaves me to say thank you very much for watching, and I shall catch you all at the next one.